Man, what you got going on with DEI and all of these things in this new world that we're in right now. It's so topical and so of the present. So thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Joe. I'm really excited about this conversation.
Yeah, me
Uh,
too. Yeah. So I want to begin with 5 years ago, we were getting into this pandemic. We were about a week into it, trying to figure it out. How did you ultimately make it through that time period, and how has it influenced the way that you do work today?
yeah, that's a great question, Joe. So thinking about the pandemic, my journey actually started 5 years before that in 2015, doing diversity, equity, and inclusion for a corporate level. So I started off in the corporate world before I sprung into the nonprofit and then went solo. So I kind of go through that journey. And from the beginning, what I've noticed is that DEI has always been changing as, I'd like to think about it when it started as diversity and inclusion, then it turned into diversity, equity, and inclusion, then it turned into XYZ, now it's inclusion and opportunity. So, at the heart of DEI has always been a changing workspace. And 5 years ago, I think we started seeing more of the um, what does this mean? How do we apply it? Especially I seen it more after the George Floyd incident in Minnesota,
Yeah.
where folks were seeing, okay, there's these inequities that are happening, shedding lights to systemic uh, inequities that were, just naturally being emerged from COVID, from, people being quarantined in their homes or even losing their jobs. And DEI was really at the center because now you're starting to see this world that's like, oh, okay, what does this really mean and who's being impacted and how does it affects all of us in a way and benefits all of us, right? Because it wasn't because the word was created that the work started. It's because the work was there that then the words got created, and it's been changing since. And I've been seeing more and more people either curious about it or they know about it or trying to learn about the topic. And now 5 years later, 2025, we're seeing okay, DI has grown so much in the last 20 years because it was even way before I started working in the corporate setting that um, it has evolved. And depending on where you stand, people might have a good view about it, and might have a negative. And it's really creating that space for folks to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workspace.
That's an interesting way to look at it because, from my perspective, to be honest with you, I'm not in agreement with this being dismantled and being something that I feel like there's a lot of things that we've done as human beings to include everybody from every walk of life. And I feel like a lot of those things are getting compromised right now for
Right.
reasons that aren't ethical, that don't make any sense to me. So that's very good that from that perspective that we're getting enlightened, which hopefully will just embolden us to do the right thing as humans in the workplace.
I agree, Joe. It's definitely hitting that piece of enlightenment period for the United States, and I'm really excited because with change comes new opportunities,
Yeah.
and a lot of the work is really how you say, how do we create that space for these values, for these things that really matter to us, to really shed light and steer away from practices or habits or ideas, right, that don't no longer serve us, and can we shed paths for a new way of life and a new way for folks to communicate, to work together, and to create the country that we want moving forward.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If I put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids right now, it's career day, they're sixth graders, and they're curious about what you do on a daily basis, and they're like, hey, what do you do for a living? How do you answer them?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say, how do you engage with the people around your community outside of school? Now think about however that means. If it's church, if it's at the library, if it's a community center, uh, who do you see there? And do they typically look like you? Do they typically talk like you? Do they wear the same clothes as you? All right, paint that picture. And then I'll follow with that. My role is really to see who's missing in that realm, and how do we create a path for folks that are not there to be there and enjoy, you know, church, the library, that community center that you're part of and be able to create opportunities for folks to come together and at school as well. So my work is really as a convener of people.
Yeah. So what did you want to be when you were a kid? What was your dream life?
Oh, that's a great one. I always wanted to be an astronaut
Oh, cool.
and then a lawyer. Funny enough, I ended up marrying a lawyer.
Okay. Okay.
But astronaut was always something. Space was really, really fun. Sciences, I think, and realized there's not a lot of opportunities in Wisconsin to do that sort of work. So um, the next best thing was instead of selling a product, sell a service. And it was really working with people that always passioned me. And for me, it was always the fact that I was very active in the community. Um, there was a community center down the street from me in Madison, Wisconsin that was very much home to me. It's called Centro Hispano. Um, and I spent a lot of time there and seeing, adults being like, oh, this is what we do. We gather kids, we teach them how to fish. I learned how to fish from there. I learned how to paint murals. And I was like, you know what? I want to do that work that makes you feel good, that brings people together and makes them think about critical questions. In college, I used to think I wanted to be a philosopher, but I was like, it's sitting down with your thoughts just seems a little too hard on the mind sometimes.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Take me back to the foundational seeds that were planted into you that have made you become who you are. What were the things that ultimately were planted for you to get into DEI and more inclusion? How did that happen?
Yeah, Joe, I'll go back to that same community center I just spoke about a couple minutes ago. Really, um, it was the mere fact of being in community that really inspired me into this trajectory. As a migrant here to the United States, I'm originally from Uruguay. I came here with, my mom, my dad, my two siblings. We were five of us here, and our family in Uruguay was about, I can't even count them, but let's say 30, upwards of 30. I had tios, I had tias, abuelos, my grandparents, uh, my uncles, and really what it came up to me was community was the best next thing to be in family. So, um, getting to know my neighbors, getting to know, the other kids that played on the block. So we used to live in this old apartment in the south side of Madison, and there were a lot of kids. So my parents was always be the ones getting people together to, let's do a cookout, let's build some sort of inflatable castle, have the kids play around with the parents, hang out and drink beer, and then we would all go to that community center and, they would teach us skills. Like I learned how to fish, like I said, I learned how to paint. I learned how to play the drums at one point. And then as I got older, I realized they were even teaching people, these leadership skills, how to be a leader in your community. So that really inspired me in seeing that there is power in community. And I wanted to continue that work. I'll fast forward to high school. I definitely continue being engaged, but then I realized my city was really a lot bigger than, that the small side of town I was part of. It used to be called the town of Madison. Um, and the city of Madison is literally just adjacent. So literally it would be separated by a road, but the town of Madison was just a little section of Madison, that just by landlocked was there. So in high school, I was going to West High School, so I was hanging out on the west side of Madison, and seeing, oh wow, there's all these great resources, there's coffee shops, there's all these things, and I wanted to hang out there with my friends, and met new friends, started getting engaged, and fast forward to college is when I started, getting a little bit more freedom, had a car, started seeing my city for what it was, driving around and seeing the different sides. Because the unique part about Madison, and you might have seen this when you visited, it's every side is different. They have its unique um, aspects to it. If you're in the east side, you'll see more of a district where it's starting to look more like a city right here behind me. You'll see the high rises going there. The west side has more of that rural urban mixture. It's a little bit more sprawly. has its unique tones. North side is developing, has the airport, and so and so. So I started seeing the different dynamics, and in college, I got this award called the Community Scholars Award, which was 4 years paid scholarship, and all I had to do was volunteer 200 hours a semester. So it's a lot of hours plus
Yeah.
managing school, but I was out and about looking for volunteer opportunities, and as you quickly come to find out, as you're searching, you're finding out, you know, where can I volunteer? Where can I be support? And it's really who you know. So I started meeting people and be like, hey, how can I help? Because helping them will help me get my 200 hours, right? Oftentimes, helping other means you're helping yourself. It's really
Yeah.
leading into that. So that community engagement was really neat. And through that aspect, I met my then soon to become employer right after college because they were like, hey, you should apply to this position, diversity, equity, inclusion. Mind you, Joe, I didn't know what DEI was. Like in school, I was studying political science and sociology, so I was really stuck in the becoming a politician at some point, or I was still thinking about the lawyer. Maybe the political science will help if I decided to go down there and down that route, down the road. So I was still exploring naturally, and very quickly I realized that a lot of the work that DEI encompass, at least the way that I was taught, was really centering people. And that is really what opened my eyes because I was seeing, oh, we're doing it in a corporate setting, but then these are people with jobs that don't feel like they have the space, don't feel like they have a voice in their company, primarily BIPOC too. And how do we bridge, individuals to other individuals the same way that I was getting bridged in different communities. And I worked there for what? A good 9 months, I want to say. Yeah, and learned so much because I was managing school, I was managing this job, and then I graduated. Um, I had a part-time job at the bank, and I decided to lean into the bank job more just because they paid better, was easier, flexible with the hours, and very quickly, the same boss recommended me for a job with MIT as a community builder. So. There was this nonprofit starting brand new using technology. This is around 2018. And we were doing this work. We were essentially convening people. All the work that I was doing around like how do we bring people to share their experiences. So this job as a community builder was really how do we get people together to talk about things that are happening, especially post 2016 in the election. There was this divide that might be getting bigger another year like Snapchat 2025. And how do we just get people to come together, have these conversations around what's going well, what's working, what's not working, what do we want to change in our communities, and really center lived experiences. So I did that for 2018 to 2021. 3 years in field, felt and grew my ranks working here in Madison, working in Boston, and then very quickly working around the states. I touched on a number of states, just again convening people, having them share their stories. COVID hit, uh, very hard to get people together to come together and have these meaningful conversations. So the nonprofit pulled out. And that spun me into building my own business. And I started MLC Consulting, really, which does stand for my initials, but it also stands for mobilizing, listening, and connecting.
Yeah.
Because again, at the center, my work is always how do we bring people together and amplify those underheard voices and started changing the what and the how to use it, the where do you do it, and getting creative throughout the years. I'm fast forwarding because my first project in my consulting business was actually in the town of Madison that I just mentioned
Yeah.
because there was a merger happening where half of the town was going to become the city of Madison, the other half was going to become part of the other city, and they needed somebody to go and connect with the people and let them know, hey, this is happening on October 21st, 2022, Halloween, I remember. And
Yeah.
November 1st, you're either wherever you stand on the one side of the highway, you'll be city Madison, you'll be part of the other city, and that's that. So my work was really engaging with businesses, business owners, primarily BIPOC people, and making sure that they knew, hey, this is happening. Do you have all the right resources? And what questions do you have? And can I connect you? So I share this all because when you think about DEI, you're really thinking about the diversity, the equity, and the inclusion, but you don't really think around like what does that really mean in day to day? It's really making sure that people is informed, making sure that people have the resources they need to advance, to continue doing the business as usual, and making sure that they have the opportunity to also share their their stories and their voice. And I've been doing this for 3 years now. Really been enjoying it. And I worked with a number of cities, private partners, nonprofits, and um, yeah, really excited just to continue growing. And I see Snapchat now in 2025, and it is being under attack. But if it's really the word, that's fine because, like I mentioned earlier, it's not because the word was created that the work was started, it's because the work was there, that the word was created. So,
Wow.
uh,
Yeah.
can
Well
we use a
put.
different word?
Yeah. So who's been a hero for you? Who's been an inspiration for you in your work?
Uh, who's been a hero? I've had a number of heroes in my lifetime, Joe. I think a lot about Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Uh, Someone that's really been challenged for 8 years in a hard position and still moving forward, regardless of, you know, what's coming ahead, and really someone that's a great communicator. I think that's really what it is, because in a lot of the work that I do, communication is key, and having a good way to articulate not just the storytelling, but these concepts, these sound skills, these things that shed light to ideas for people, enlighten them, is really critical. And I think Obama really did that really well. His 8 years in office, he was able to overcome adversity and uh, pass legislation that needed to get passed. And it was one of those moments where, we had, I think, a thriving moment in our country just because we had a really powerful leader that knew how to communicate across the spectrum, not just a certain audience. And that's something that I think at the heart of the work that I do is really how do I communicate across the spectrum?
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. How do you balance this work that you do of coming in and helping people get to a better place? And because it's going to be heavy stuff, especially now in this 2025 new world we're in. And then take care of yourself, take care of your own soul. How do you balance all that out?
Yeah. Off record. No, just kidding. I'm gonna say tequila. No, but lots of self-care. In three ways actually. Right now if it's weather, I like to run, be outdoors. Wisconsin, the hard part is that you really can be outdoors for like 3 months out of the year before, it's cold or you hit the other season, which is construction season. We have two seasons in Wisconsin, winter and construction season, and that's it. But if it's not running, I do a lot of yoga. So that mindfulness of the breath work has helped me, um, the movement, and just be able to stretch out because it is holding in a lot of stress from other people and those experiences. And then the third way is like a good sauna session.
Yeah.
I encourage it for a lot more people. I think folks, you get started with a little bit of heat, you can only last 5 minutes. That's fine. I spend about 25 minutes if I can, just to be able to sit down, either listen to a podcast, listen to a book, read if I can, but just having that heat and be able to release those toxins has helped me a lot
Yeah.
in this journey. So I recommend it to folks if you're listening and you are very curious to try out Asana. This is that push to try it out.
I used to do it back in, I think I was in my 30s. I had a friend that lived in an apartment complex in downtown KC. I loved it. I love sweating anyways. I'm part cat, but that was a level of just getting it all out. Like I felt cleansed in a way I never had before. It's wonderful.
It's rejuvenating. I agree.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
wonderful afterwards.
So let me ask you this. If let's say there was a room you walk into and you got all of these clients that you've worked with over the years, all of these colleagues that know you in a business sense, and you walk through that room and go up to a podium and you can tell them one fun thing about you, a fun story, something that would humanize you, they would see you for who you are, what would you tell them?
Uh, well, I would say the real Matthias is out somewhere running, and if not running, playing the ukulele, because the ukulele is such a beautiful instrument. I've
Yeah,
been falling in love with it. I started playing guitar, Joe, 10 years ago. Loved the guitar, and then went on to the electric just to play it up, and never liked the bass too much. But then the ukulele, I don't know what it was, but it was just wow.
that's it.
Uh, that's what it is. So if I were to say, take ukulele lessons, try it out. You're gonna feel so cool with it, but also just the tunes. They're so
Yeah,
wonderful. It's such an easy instrument too. So,
yeah,
do you
yeah.
play an instrument, Joe?
No, I kind of fiddle. I've played with the drums, but my friends
Mm.
that I went on the road with when we went to Wisconsin, one of the players in the band was a ukulele player, and he loved
Ah,
it, and he was really, really good at it, and it was a unique instrument to have in there. In fact, he got somebody in Iowa that made him an electric uke, which was rare. Yeah,
ooh.
and he loved it. It was such a great sound. So, yeah. So let me ask you this: of everything that you've done and accomplished and evolved into in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Um, Joe, I am proud that I am keeping out to I'm keeping true to my authentic self. And I say in the sense that there's a lot of people that haven't had the opportunity to really explore. And I've taken the time to really explore, the who I am, what really matters to me, what's my value. And that's why I think that business for me is really important because navigating the job world, you're just going from, one job to another. Is this really my purpose? And it's not until you get that moment to really step back or do that intentional stepping back and say, what is it that I really want to dedicate my time to and move forward that will make me truly happy? And every day I'm living something that makes me really happy and be able to continue growing. So I'm really proud that what, 3 years ago when I had the opportunity to step back, I did, and I leaned in heavily into who am I and what do I want to do with my time. And I realized that I want to be an agent of change, do some impact work, and be able to convene people to see that this can be done. And in fact, this is the time to do it.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Hmm, who do I think I am? Oh, that's a deep one. I don't know why.
That's a therapy question.
That is a therapy question. I'm gonna use that one.
Yeah.
Um, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just a guy that wants to learn and lean into curiosity. Like your cat you mentioned.
Yeah.
I like to be curious and poke my nose where I'm not supposed to and say, is this gonna hurt me? Is this gonna work? What's in here? And uh just curious
I
is
dig
really
it.
what I say.
So if anyone wants to reach out, they want to hire you, learn more, any of the good business, where do they go?
Yeah, right now I've been really active on LinkedIn. That'll be the best place to reach me. My email too, but LinkedIn, send me a message. Happy to connect with people, set some time, and you know, I love to chat.
I dig it. This has been great. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your story. Thank you for the work you're doing, and best of luck as we move forward.
Thank you, Joe, for the time, and try the cheese curds when you're in Wisconsin.
100%. I am. I'm on it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the Great Prospero's bookstore off 39th
29th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.